Picture this, you pick up a manga, it's cute, it's wholesome, it's got a nerdy high school kid, a messy gyaru girl, and I kid you not, practical cleaning tips woven into every chapter. It's charming in a weird specific way, you're having a good time. And then, right as the manga is wrapping up, the author just loses it. Not in a writing got worse way, not in a rushed ending way, in a way that made readers across the internet stop, stare blankly at their screens and ask, what did I just read? This is the story of gall cleaning, the manga that became more famous for its spectacular self-destruction than for anything it actually set out to do. But first, let me explain what the story is about. Gall Cleaning is a shonen manga by an author going by the pen name Shuwata Ramunemura. It started in 2018 and on paper, the pitch is delightful. Our protagonist is Daisuke Kaji, a high school boy who is, as the manga's own synopsis puts it, bad with galls. Okay, that's kinda cringe. He's the kind of guy who panics around flashy girls. One day, through a completely ordinary series of circumstances, he ends up at the home of a girl named Chiriko Yega. She's a stereotypical gyaru. Fake tan, bleached hair, nails done, the whole aesthetic. And her room is an absolute biohazard. A violation of health codes that probably don't even exist in Japan. Not even Gojo is safe there. Now, Kaji is something of a cleaning savant. He's the Mao Mao Sherlock Holmes of sanitation. And when Yega sees the way this guy moves efficiently through her disaster of an apartment, she does what any reasonable person would do. She blackmails him into cleaning her old place. Of course? Yup, reasonable, and that's the setup. Every chapter, Kaji cleans something. He drops a real practical cleaning tip, Yega makes his life difficult and kind of charming at the same time. They slowly grow closer. Chapters 1 through 8 are breezy, wholesome, and easy to enjoy. If the manga had ended there, nobody would be making videos about it today. It would just be a forgotten but pleasant little series. But it didn't end there. Oh no. So let's talk about the beginning of the end. Most manga are serialized in magazines or on online platforms, and their survival depends almost entirely on sales and reader rankings. It's not personal, it's just the industry. It's what happens today. This happens to hundreds of manga every year. Gall Cleaning was one of them. Volume 1, collecting the first batch of chapters, did not sell well, and when the cancellation notice came down, the author, Shuwata Ramunemura, was officially given notice. Wrap it up. Now, listen, different mangaka handle this in different ways. Some authors rush to tie their plot threads together in a coherent, if compressed, ending. Some manage to pull off something genuinely touching in the space they have left. Some just let the story breathe out quietly and call it done. Shuwata Ramunemura chose none of these options. He didn't want to take the L. Here's where it gets weird, and I need you to pay attention to the chapter numbers because this is important. After chapter 8, which is literally titled The Gall and the End Of, instead of a chapter 9, readers got a chapter 8.5. Okay, a bonus chapter, fine, that happens sometimes. Then came chapter 8.6, then 8.7 and so on. And then, and I really want you to absorb this, after 8.9 came 8.91, then 8.92, all the way up to 8.99. 15 separate chapters, all labeled as some decimal variation of chapter 8. It's as if the manga itself was trying to avoid reaching chapter 9, as if it was stalling or spiraling or both. Then, the content shift started subtly. Chapters 8.5 onward kicked off what fans darkly nicknamed the Pantyless Saga, a running bit where Yega goes to school without underwear played as a comedy gag. It was dumb and dragged out, but okay, it's ecchi shonen, that kind of thing shows up. But then, around chapter 8.94, something went wrong in a much more serious way. A completely new character was randomly introduced, someone with no connection to the story so far. It was a girl, and her chapters consisted almost entirely of graphic flashback scenes depicting SA. Yeah, and in a fluffy high school cleaning romcom, with absolutely no setup, no narrative purpose, and no resolution. That is honestly fucked up. The tonal whiplash was violent. Readers who had been following a cute manga about a neat freak boy and a messy gyaru girl were suddenly reading something that belonged in a completely different genre, and a deeply disturbing one at that. Even 4chan people were disgusted and no translators wanted anything to do with it. And if 4chan is disgusted, there is something really wrong. And then, after all of that, the manga just pretended it hadn't happened. The final chapters tried to return to some version of the original tone. There were awkward misunderstandings, weird dialogue, and a limp, unsatisfying conclusion. The salt subplot was never addressed or paid off, it was just dropped, like it was never there. So here's the question everyone asks, why? And the honest answer is, nobody knows for certain. Shuhata Ramunemura never gave a detailed public explanation. There's no smoking gun interview, no confession, no post-mortem thread. And what we have are theories, and two of them dominate. Theory 1, a genuine breakdown. The cancellation hit the author hard. He had apparently wanted, in his own words, to leave an impact on society with his work. Finding out that your manga, your creative labor, had failed commercially is a gut punch. Now, for a debut or early career mangaka, a cancellation can feel like a professional death sentence. People feel like Ramunemura genuinely broke under that pressure, that the increasingly unhinged chapter numbering, the tonal chaos, the complete narrative abandonment, these weren't calculated. They were the output of someone who had stopped coping. And then we have theory number 2, the middle finger. The other theory, circulated widely on Reddit and the anime forums, is that this was deliberate sabotage, that Ramunemura was furious at the publisher and the chaotic ending was a conscious act of spite, a way of torching the series on his way out, making sure the product and the publisher cancelled would go down in flames. And again, under this reading, the bizarre chapter decimals and the content escalation were all intentional. You're cancelling my manga? Fine, I'll make sure everyone remembers it for the worst possible reasons. Most people who've analyzed the situation believe it was probably some combination of both. A creator in genuine emotional distress, lashing out in ways that were both chaotic and purposeful. What makes the story genuinely sad is that the bones of gall cleaning weren't bad. The first 8 chapters show a creator with a charming idea, decent character chemistry, and a clever hook. If the manga had found its audience, if volume 1 had sold, there's a real argument that this could have developed into something genuinely enjoyable. Ramunemura had a concept worth exploring, he just never got the chance to see it through. But here's another problem. One particularly biting critic noted that no editor should have ever let the final chapters see the light of day, and that's a fair point. Somewhere in the editorial pipeline, decisions were made, or not made, that let a mentally and creatively unraveling creator burn their own work down in the most public, permanent way possible. So where does gall cleaning live now? In obscurity mostly, but a very specific, very loud kind of obscurity. It's the kind of manga that gets brought up every time someone asks, what's the worst manga ending you've ever read? It shows up in the worst heel turns in fiction discussions. It gets cited as a cautionary tale about what happens when creators crack under the industry pressure with no safety net. The community consensus is almost universally the same. Read through chapter 8, drop it there and call it your ending. Multiple reviewers have said that chapter 8, the one literally titled Gal and the End Off, was intentionally or not the real ending. Everything after was the author writing in freefall. It also lives as a kind of artifact of how brutal the manga industry can be, especially for newer creators. The cancellation system, while economically necessary, gives almost no room for a mangaka to fail, recover and grow. You're either performing or you're out, and sometimes when the axe falls, it doesn't just end the manga, it ends the version of that creator who started it. So what happened to Shuhata Ramunemura after gall cleaning? That's hard to say with certainty. Their public presence only largely went quiet. There's no major follow-up work that achieved mainstream attention. Whether they eventually returned to manga under a different pen name, moved on entirely, or are still somewhere out there working on something new, nobody in the Western fandom seems to know for sure. Gall cleaning is a weird story to tell because it's not really about a bad manga. It's about a decent idea that was cancelled before it could breathe, a creator who didn't handle that well, and a permanent public record that the internet keeps of everything. The cleaning tips in chapters 1 through 8 were good, apparently. If you want to know how to properly remove a stain or clean a carpet, Kaji's got you. Just stop reading before the decimal points start. If you found this interesting, like and subscribe, there's a lot more manga chaos where that came from. And if you've read Gall Cleaning yourself, you already know, nothing I said here comes close to capturing the experience of reading it in real time.